Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heritage Mezcal, the new, very young podcast in which I am trying to make something that I'm not very sure what it is. I am Chava Periban, Salvador Periban, and I am here again with Cesar Ojeda. Cesar, thanks for joining again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just happened a moment ago when we were talking. We're still drinking the same thing. We're still drinking mezcal from Rio de Parras.
Totally. I have already finished it.
Really? Okay, let me do top your cup, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Those are gonna be delightful sounds for Roy to edit on. There you go. So, Cesar, I think when I met you the first time, and this happened upon us, we went out drinking to a bar, and against all odds, honestly, this had never happened to me. Some young women came to talk to us. We didn't talk to them. They came to talk to us, and that was very shocking. I was like,
no way, dude! You have it on. You got the control of that, dude.
it was a very funny interaction. But that did happen. We're not crazy. I have a witness that can testify that happened.
I mean, you're a fucking rock star, dude.
We do not swear on the Heritage Mezcal. No, it's all good. But you know, like, I think what I am referring to that, it's because they asked us, the three of us, what do you guys do for a living? And we all looked at each other, and it's like, well, he farms, he ferments, I distill.
Yeah.
And that was pretty...
It was fun.
Yeah, right? Like, that was...
We have a WhatsApp group with that name.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that interaction prompted me to think about something that I don't get to talk enough about.
Yep.
So, I mean, your specialty is bacteria and yeast?
Mostly yeast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's usually a lot of mezcal enthusiasts that when you go to a distillery and there's a papaya tree, there's an orange tree by the fermentation, we sort of always celebrate that. You know, like we always say, oh, they have like some fruits around. Yeah. That is definitely affecting the fermentation. Is that true? Or is it just like us being over the top romantic?
I mean, yeah, I have heard that before. I mean, it works as, I mean, we cannot see the landscapes of like the distilleries isolated entities. I mean, they are connected with several roads and other stuff. So, I mean, they are not they're not gonna bring like different flavors. Like if you're gonna put the papaya closer to that, it's not gonna be
papaya mezcal.
Exactly, it's not gonna bring that flavors. But I mean, they can be useful as reservoirs of yeast communities. Like I mean, there's a lot of vectors of bees, fleas, or many animals that can be vectors there. So I mean, that's an interesting thing. I mean, how people organize the landscapes closer to the distillery facilities, it's super interesting because they're gonna promote more vectors, and vectors are gonna bring new or different yeast communities.
And you know why I love this so much? Because every time I see distilleries in other countries, they tend to be super isolated.
Yeah.
Usually it's like a warehouse with thick walls. The landscape and what's happening in there,
it's different completely outside.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
But here, a lot of the palenques, tabernas, vinatas factory, like alambiques that I go to, they're really open.
Mostly open.
And I don't think that's an accident.
No, and that's totally interesting because, as I told you, like we're building landscapes around these facilities. Like in some way, like we were talking about the Durango ones. There's a lot of oaks surrounding the distilleries. So this is interesting because the oaks are really related to the as a place where Saccharomyces species or other yeast species are gonna they're gonna stay there. And also this happens in another distilleries in Oaxaca. I think I told you, like in San Luis Atolotitlan, they put like a road of different ipomeas and other flowers in order to maintain the yeast communities closer to the distilleries. So, I mean, and also in Colonche, what they are keeping is the landscapes, like healthy landscapes, improves the aroma and the complexity of the fermentation.
Okay, if this doesn't become a 2-hour episode, like we need to be careful about this because. Okay, where do I even start after you said such a bomb? I mean, what you just said was a nuclear. I remember something you told me that really, like, I don't know, just flipped something in my head.
I was probably drunk.
No, you were still sober. We just got met. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Or maybe you get drunk really fast. I don't know. Yeah. But I remember you tell me that you found that the yeasts attached to bees or wasps were different, and that in some places they understand that if the bee carries something, it's not gonna be as fortunate as the wasp. And that for me was like, that is the ultimate level of understanding of how a landscape can affect your fermentation.
I mean, it wasn't like difference between the bees and the wasp.
Okay, I misunderstood.
I was working with the Comca community, that is the Ceres group in Punta Chueca in Hermosillo, and they produce this pitaya wine that is not a pitaya, it's more like a Cardon wine. It's with Pachycereus weberi, and they do not ferment the fruits that are not open. They just wait to open the fruits open, because if not, they're not gonna have all the yeast communities that they have. So, like, they're pretty aware of how things need to be done with yeast in the imaginary conception. Like, if there's no vectors, there's not gonna be a fermentation. And we saw that. I don't know if your mother told you this. Maybe my mother was torturing me when I was a child, but she would always say, like, as a child, you will see a piece of fruit, and if the birds had touched it, you're like, I don't want that. Yeah. But then my mother's like, birds are more intelligent than you, kid. Totally.
They are going for the sweetest stuff. So if the bird decided that's good for him, go and get it, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
So it's almost like that kind of mindset. Yeah,
totally. And it works then for the fermentation of this pitaya wine. Like, I mean, they wake up really early in order to get those fruits
before they are fully eaten, I guess.
Exactly, by birds.
Wow.
So I mean, there's this conception of, like, probably people think like, like indigenous people didn't know about microorganisms, but they know how they work in the fermentations. I mean,
that's insane. I also remember, Jiribilla, the coffee company out of Veracruz.
No. I have heard of it, but I haven't.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are very present in a lot of coffee shops around Mexico City, and they were, I think, one of my first introductions to consistently well done Mexican coffee. And they had one release that, how like picking the right cherries is like the whole name of the game. They did a release where it was only cherries that had been attacked by birds or insects.
Cool.
And I thought that was pretty smart, right? That was
totally.
And fermenting those cherries, I'm sure, was a dream.
Totally.
Oh man.
Good. That's super interesting, dude.
Right. Yeah, like totally.
That's a new thing. Like, it's kind of changing the way it's gonna be harvested also.
And with agave, like, and this is something very controversial that I just posted. I was doing this interview, and two producers told me that after caponing the agave in Michoacan for inoculants in the colder areas, they can wait for 8 years.
No way.
Right? I mean, I don't have proof of this beyond two producers saying, let's say they're not the best at counting, like sometimes, so let's say 5, let's say 4, still a lot. But they were telling me that they love sometimes when they get full with worms.
Yeah.
And that they love to cook that, and that gives a different flavor. And I'm sure that there has to be some interaction with fermentation too. Well, but I mean, when you cook it though, everything's dead, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So maybe I'm just imagining stuff now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Let's recalculate. No, but I mean, like, just going back to what you said, and this is something that I'm definitely stealing Lalo's words from La Locura. I made an interview with him a long time ago, and he said that a palenque is not just a distillery; it's part of a community.
It is.
So totally. With this idea that you're saying, which like you need a landscape to have fortunate yeast, that even emphasizes that strongly. Yeah. Right. Like if you don't have a healthy
surroundings.
Yeah, if you're using crazy pesticides. If you are using, I'm sure that affects, or I don't know, like, or are just like super powerful and they don't care.
No, totally not. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of research in that area, but we don't know, like, if pesticides affect the microbial community related to agave species. I mean, it's gonna probably change. Like
I say it's a no that. I think like we don't know the specifics, but I'm pretty sure that has to affect it.
Me too. I'm totally agree with that. Like I mean, if you add pesticides to agave salmianas and agave tequilana, like you're gonna have a decreasing microbial community, but diversity, but we don't know how many of those pesticides are going to go to the fermentation process. And we don't know if those pesticides are going to affect the dynamic of the fermentation process too.
Really? And nobody has quite spent a lot of...
I'm not pretty sure, dude. I'm not pretty sure. I mean, there's a couple of researchers in Ciatec, in Guadalajara, and also in Guanajuato. They're working with the microbial community in the soil related to the agave species, but I don't know if they're looking how the microbial community might change in the fermentation process by the adding of these pesticides.
Because like there's a huge movement in the tequila context right now of additive-free tequila. But now, I mean, I guess organic will be the alternative. But then you're telling me that even if an agave is organic, maybe if the landscape has traces of these pesticides, that might be messing with the microbial communities attached from it. It's a maybe. It's a maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally don't know. I don't know, but it makes sense.
Jeez. No, I mean, you just make me worry a little bit more about another thing, because that may go into the water, and then that water used for fermentation, and I mean, it's everything's connected. I mean, that's
exactly
as much as we know.
That's the point: maintaining a healthy landscape.
Oof. Okay, so I think I love that as a conclusion. Like, to maintain a healthy landscape is to maintain a more fortunate fermentation.
Totally, and a complex.
Yeah, okay. I even like that more. A more complex fermentation is the consequence of a healthy landscape.
Totally.
Chingon, Cesar.
Chingon.
Fundamental pleasure. I'll see you pretty soon.
Yeah.
Adiosito. Bye.
See you, chava.
Thanks for spending some time with Cesar Ojeda and myself, your host, Chava Periban, trying to further understand fermentation vectors and landscapes. All sounds and music are crafted by Joven Roy Sierra, and this episode was recorded inside his pretty studio in Mexico City. Feliz Día de la Independencia, chamacos.